Elton saying 6-5 offsuit. Good enough for 25,000.
Mike and Young on the real hand here. King Queen offsuit.
One thing that is nice about this chip set is that they only have three denomination chips.
He's gonna make
and
the
it's
call.
Like tiny chip, middle chip, giant chip.
Everyone with
So,
like
it's
a
hard to-
reasonable
it's hard to,
hand.
like, fuck up that bad. Yeah. For sure.
Queen Jack gets out of the way. Ace 10 for
I
tan.
can never. I don't think I'm gonna like accidentally put like a blue in the pot, you know, instead of a yellow or vice versa or whatever.
Yeah. Keep the blue ones far away.
Just gonna see a three-way flop here. Tan Xuan with the best of it. Flop strip aces. Let's see if Elton's gonna take a stab.
Safely gives it up. Wykin's going to check back his middle pair. Oh, nice check from Tan Xuan. Even though the flush draw comes, just knows he's way far ahead. And that gets Elton saying to bet 42,000. Just 6 high. Should get Wykin to come along.
Yeah, Wykin not checking the flop to fold the turn. And especially from 2 checks from Tan Xuan, he's gonna feel pretty good about this.
Tan Xuan with this check had just gotten 84,000 extra in the middle. With both of his opponents drawing dead. So Tan Xuan here trying to decide, should he raise because there's a bet and call in front of him and there's a flush draw now. Makes it 130,000.
When you're playing against Tan Xuan, you know that he's capable of doing this with a gut shot, with a flush draw. Very aggressive player. Fearless.
So Wykin is going to come along here. He saw the flop get checked around, thinks it's less likely. He knows it's less likely he has an ace.
Lot of action on this turn. The most interesting thing has got to be Tan Xuan deciding to raise to 130 million Hong Kong dollars. This would seem, at least first blush, to be maybe a questionable raise, Grant, because a lot of times I'd just be worried if I was Tan about getting called by worse hands here and only getting action from better hands. What do you think?
You know, that is at first blush what I was thinking as well. But upon further inspection, knowing our opponents, it seems not so bad to me, honestly, because Elton Sang, for those who don't know, is what is in poker parlance known as a complete maniac. He's a guy who can show up with any 2 cards at any time. As we see, he opened 5-6 off +2. He has a wide range. When he's checked 2 twice, it looked like he was giving up on the flop, but when he's checked 2 twice, he's going to take a shot a lot. I'm not too worried about Elton Sang having us beat. If Elton Sang puts in a 3-bet, we can certainly consider folding. It should probably lean that way. This is more targeted at Wykin Young, because the way Wykin Young has played this hand so far, by the way, I like his check back on the flop with King-Queen. Getting here, it looks exactly like Wykin has a king or has a heart draw. And I don't mind charging the heart draws, maybe getting them to fold, and potentially getting called by kings because as Tan Xuan, we have the reputation of a guy who puts in a lot of action. So I think this is actually a profitable raise for Tan Xuan.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think another really important piece to this is because Tan is in the worst position of the 3, he's acting first on every street here. If he just calls, it's so hard to get value on the river. Like, because they're 3 ways, I don't know that we're going to see very many people taking a shot on the river. I don't think Elton Sang is just going to fire again when both players call. He's got to be worried that someone can have an ace here for sure. Or just not believe him and call with a king, which is what happened on the button anyway with Wei Kin. Also, if a flush card comes in, it just is really hard to bluff when you're 3 ways here and both players called. So the only way to get more money in this pot, I think, as Tan, where it won't check around on the river, if everyone has it what they're repping, and it is basically everyone does have that, except Elton has nothing, is to make a raise right now.
Yeah, I kind of like it, and it's a crappy spot for Wei Kin once Elton folds,
Yeah.
but This is part of the beauty of the raise for Tan Xuan. It's Tan Xuan. Wei Qin knows that. He's like, well, I can't fold to this guy when I have king, queen, and I check back the flop. I just can't do it. So I definitely understand the call here on the turn.
Absolutely. And there's obvious bluffs that Tan can have here, right? Like hearts are the most obvious thing for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe gutters once in a while, I guess. It seems like a very clear, very easy call against this particular opponent.
If you want to have clear calls against particular opponents, Nitrogen Sports Poker is the place to do it. You know what I'm talking about, Jonathan?
No, I don't. I don't know anymore what you're talking about. I mean, I do, because it's Nitrogen Sports Poker, baby. And what they have is all the good things. They've got poker, they've got casino games, they've got sports betting, and of course they have the Poker Guys monthly tournament, which you can only get by clicking the link that we have on Twitter to sign up. And if you do that, you get access to this tournament. They guarantee 1,000 buy-ins. It's true, 1,000. It's so many, I couldn't believe it. 1,000 buy-ins, we get like 180 players. Massive overlay, massive free money. It's crazy not to get involved.
Get in there, get you some poker.
So he wants to defend
You ever eat
some
at
strong hands.
Vidges in Vancouver? Vidges, the Indian place over in Kitsilano? That place is damn good. Indian food place?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I'm not
amazing. You're not a fan?
I'm not a fan of the Indian food, though.
I love that place.
So river card is a 7. Not the card that Tan Xuan wanted to see because he was trying to represent that hand and wanted to bluff as a miss heart draw.
Nowhere, really. I used to leave. I still have a lot of stuff and a few things in Vancouver and then the stuff in Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah,
So it's
for like
gonna
7
reach
years,
for
I
some
just
value
didn't go
betting
anywhere
chips.
else, 6 years.
200,000.
Back when mine was good, you know, now it's so small. Just small and bad.
Not scared of the hearts.
Bigger and better things.
So we're $500,000 in the middle right now.
Here's about
Good,
online.
it got me out of my house.
Tan Xuan and Wai Qin Yong have played a lot. Definitely plays into this hand as well. Tan Xuan knows I show up here with bluffs sometimes. I have shown Queen Jack or Jack 10 in the past. I think I can get some value here. It's up to Wai Qin to figure this out. He cannot be happy that the flush has gotten there.
So why
Rui,
can't
how's the game going tonight?
trying to figure out some bluffs?
All right.
This guy.
Oh yeah. Elton.
5-way all in.
5-way all
Yeah.
in.
Top pair, no kicker wins with a jack. And no,
five-way
no,
all
no
in.
full house, one pair.
That's impossible.
That's it.
That's actually impossible. I think.
No problem. It says jack, jack. Oh, no need jack, I win.
I know, I was calling for another jack. I was like, oh, I don't need another jack.
Same cards
The
and,
same not open ender and just brick.
and just
I makes the call.
Wow. Nice value bet. 707,000, the biggest pot so far of the day.
Absolutely perfect
Yeah,
play.
it's actually
Yeah.
probably
Some
sick.
people would get
Actually
scared when the
probably,
flush comes. Tan Xuan gets 200,000.
Elton probably just had like 85% or something.
Big yikes on everything that just happened on the river. I think one of these decisions is worth discussing. The other one is categorically bad. Let's start with the one that's worth discussing, which is Tan Xuan going for value with trip aces, medium kicker on this river. It is a heart, Jonathan. Is this a good idea?
Boy, it doesn't seem like it. It sure pays off amazingly well to the tune of $200,000 going in the pot there on the river with the call. But it doesn't seem like a great bet because although if we check, yes, we would call against at least some bets by Wei Qin, right? For sure. I'm just really worried about worse hands calling. And at first blush, I actually kind of like this bet, I think. But the more I think about it, the more I'm worried that like a hand like ace 6, ace 5, ace 4, ace 3 suited, all those kinds of hands that maybe could be here, maybe might just fold on this heart river. And that's a real problem. And of course, all the hearts got there. So we might just be valuing ourselves. I'm not sure why we bet so much rather than betting less. Give ourselves like we can block bet that way, you know, it seems better. Also, maybe it's easier for ace 3 to call if we bet less. I don't know why we're betting so much.
Yeah, I think we should be betting an amount that is a lot easier for a weak ace or even a hand like king queen to call.
Yeah.
And I like that better. However, Somehow it works out for Tan. Maybe this is reputation based, but let's go through it because this is the decision that I earlier referred to as categorically bad, and maybe that's not fair. Maybe we should explore it.
Feels a little unfair.
Yeah, okay, so let's defend it then, Levy. Defend the call with King Queen
Okay.
by Wei Kin Young.
The only way I can reasonably defend this call is Wei has to know a lot about Tan Xuan, right? And so Tan does have that reputation as being kind of a crazy dude. He's got to basically be able to show up in this spot with not just gut shots, but more weird air stuff than that too, which I don't know how possible that is, quite frankly. It seems unlikely to me. Maybe he has to be able to have like 3-5 maybe, and 3 deuce and 5 deuce, stuff like that, which are also gutters, which he would have turned, and then decides to attack and then just take shots on the river along with hands like Jack 10, Queen Jack, Queen 10, because a heart came on the river, and we called the turn raise like we usually have. This is like the worst hand we ever have at this point, right? Like, this is it. This is basically as bad as it gets. Like, we usually have trip aces, a flush, and this hand. Maybe we have King Jack once in a while. That's it. So I think from a range point of view, we should be folding. I know we got the Queen of Hearts. That's a reason to call because we think, like, there aren't as many hearts out there, and I don't know. We think like he can't bet. We don't think Tan's capable of betting for value with trip aces. We're wrong. He is. Also, Tan has all the combos of hearts because he called from the big blind. This just seems like a bad call.
Yeah, I think what happened here with Wei Kin is that he had a plan that was based on Tan Xuan, which is not a bad idea in the first place. But you have to be aware of negative events in a hand. And the 7 of hearts is a negative event. Despite blocking the heart with a Queen of Hearts, if Tan Xuan was bluffing on the turn, the most natural bluffing hand he has as a check raise here is a heart draw, and that just got there. So if Tan wasn't bluffing on the turn, he has plenty of boats that he could have, by the way. He probably has some trip aces. As we see, he does have trip aces. And then as Wei Kin, we have to be very sure on the river in order to make this call that Tan is going to not bet trip aces on this card. And as we see, that is not the case. And I don't think we should ever make an assumption about a player that we are assuming to be too aggressive to not be betting a weaker part of his range for value. So I think there's a lot of problematic things that went into this call, all based on the assumption that Tan Xuan is just a crazy guy, so I have to call him down with something. But the 7 of hearts is not the card to do it on.
The 7 of hearts isn't the card, and this is the wrong hand to do it with, too. We actually block some of the gutters by having the queen in our hand. Like, I would much rather have even a hand like ace 3 plays better because we block some of the full houses, right? So that's going to create less value at least for and some of the trip aces, in fact, too. We would still lose in this case, but that seems like a better hand. I don't even know if that hand's good enough to call with, quite frankly. It probably isn't, but a big ace is. Like ace jack, I think we're going to have to call with ace queen. This, as I was saying before, too, is at the bottom of our range right now. Like, why are we calling with the hand that's basically the worst hand that's left? I know we have the heart in our hand. Maybe that bumps us up a little bit, but I don't think bumps us up enough to call when we should have a lot. We should have hearts here a lot, right? We have flushes.
It's almost and maybe it's fair to disrespect Tan Xuan a little bit and his ranges, but I think this is a call based on disrespect of Tan Xuan. And I said this in our podcast. I feel like in order to make this call, you have to put Tan Xuan on being kind of like 1999 style aggressive, where he doesn't have any reason the times that he's bluffing. He doesn't have any combinatorial reason, right? He just is like, I have 9-3 of spades, and I'm bluffing because I decided I want to bluff, instead of actually it being like a gut shot or a heart draw or something like that, where it actually makes sense to have a semi bluff. I don't think Tan Xuan's that guy. I think he's a guy who studies the game. He might be hyper aggressive, but I think we have to give him more credit than that, and therefore I think we have to fold a hand like King Queen here.
There are just so many other better spots ultimately, right? Like, think about, like, so many cards can come that we have an easy call on the river with against this opponent. It's like every non-heart in the deck, basically, we're going to call and lose, but that makes sense then, right? Now we have obvious bluffs that we're beating. Great. I can think of lots of hands in his range that he would bluff and that we can call and we can beat. Fabulous. We just don't have that here. That doesn't exist here, right? The brick didn't come. We just can't call with every card in the deck that comes on the river with a hand this week.
Right. I guess why Kin just let Tan Xuan use his image to get max value.
Max value, more like maximum value. Is that a thing people say? I'm not sure anymore. Anyway, so that was an insanely big pot. That was $750,000 ended up going in that pot somehow, some way. What do you think about some of these decisions? So we really looked at a few in particular. The turn check raise by Tan Xuan we ultimately liked, but we thought was really interesting and not necessarily normal, although we ultimately thought it was probably good. On the river, Tan deciding to bet so much, betting it all and then betting so much. We think we like a smaller bet, more like 100 million, 120 million. I guess that's like 120,000 USD. And then ultimately the way call. Can you find a way to defend this? We can't. We think this is just categorically a mistake. But let us know if you disagree and why.
Right, and if you want to know how we came to all of our conclusions in this video, you got to go check out our podcast. It is the Breakdown Poker Podcast with the Poker Guys. That is where we have a bunch of fun while breaking down these hands. That's where we came to all of our decisions. By the way, we do 2 of those a week, only 1 video breakdown a week. If you want double the content, check out the podcast. It's awesome.